Hello everyone, welcome to another video. It's Thursday the 21st of May and today we are talking about essential skills visas. Now you see the title of the video is relating to the ostensible death of the essential skills visa. So this video is going to give you some hopefully some good information, useful information, and hopefully also some positive news coming out of this, what's happening at the moment. So just to talk about what essential skills means and why we think that we might be experiencing the end of this category of visa. So essential skills, just to distinguish this in terminology, this does not refer to the concept of an essential worker or essential work under the pandemic response. Okay, so the government has identified that there are certain types of work which are treated as essential work for the purposes of the COVID-19 response. However, what we're talking about here is essential skills work visas. This is a category of visa that essentially recognizes that employers may require migrant workers to fill gaps in work that is considered to be essential for the New Zealand economy. Now, why do we think that we might be seeing an end to this category? Well, there are two main reasons, and this is quite important to understand if you have an essential skills visa or if you're thinking that you might need to apply for an essential skills visa in the coming months. Now, the first reason why people are suggesting this is the death or the end of the essential skills category is basically because the government has told us it's going to be ended. Now, what we've been told, this is going back to last year, is that there are some changes in policy coming. Was meant to be for the middle of this year, but there will be some changes in policy which effectively removes the essential skills category from the policy books along with others, and then replaces those work visa categories with a new system, which has a new name, but that effectively has the same requirements as what we now call essential skills work visa category. And that requirement is that a position must be advertised and an employer must demonstrate that they've made a reasonable and genuine attempt to recruit New Zealanders for the role before they can then offer it to a migrant. So in effect, even though that's the end of that category by name, there's a continuation of that concept of having to prove that you can't find New Zealanders before you can fill a role with a migrant. So that's not really what people are so concerned about. And in fact, when that policy does finally come through, potentially this year at a later stage than we initially thought, but when it finally comes through, could be good news for some people. The reason being that in certain levels of pay or in certain regions, the labour market check would become a little bit easier, and potentially also if you're having a certain amount of salary, a certain level of salary, the skill level requirement under the Australia and New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations, or ANSCO, would not be needing to be strictly adhered to. So what is more concerning for most people is instead that now, as a result of this economic upheaval, let's say, that we've been going through, that we now have in our local economy many New Zealand citizens and residents who have lost their jobs and are now looking for work. So as a result of this, what we're noticing from emails from immigration officers is that INZ, Immigration New Zealand, is going to start really deeply scrutinising whether the employer has made this genuine attempt and whether that labour market check is still satisfied after the lockdown, after all of this upheaval. So in some cases that means advertising a position again, although they have mentioned in the email to us that they're not going to be requiring people to do that. I do, sort of trying to imagine how you're going to satisfy this labour market test without advertising again. But at the very least, what they're saying is an employer is going to have to explain to immigration, how the situation has unfolded. Is the business still viable? And have they still been trying to find New Zealanders, train New Zealanders? Now this is going to be extra difficult for people who are in that what's considered to be the lower skilled category, under low skilled employment with an ANSCO level 4 or 5 role. The reason is that those roles, in order to be eligible for a visa, you need to get a letter from Work and Income New Zealand effectively showing that they don't have anyone on their books who's a New Zealand citizen or resident. And the reality is that there are plenty of those now. So anecdotally, we have seen some people now who have placed an advertisement online for a role, and within 2 days 150 people have applied for the job. So look, what is the good news out of all of this? Well, I guess on the one hand, if this policy change goes ahead, then there may be a little bit more of a streamlined process for people. But for those of you who have to apply now, in amongst all of these difficulties, I guess the only good news is that if you do it the right way, and if you follow the right advice, and if your employer is there to support you and really genuinely needs you, then there can be a way to get through it. Okay, so it's a gauntlet. There are rocks and stones and potholes in the pathway, but if you can find the right way to navigate through that, there is a visa at the end for you. Maybe not in every case, but especially in genuine cases. If you have genuine employment and your employer genuinely cannot find somebody from the local labor pool, and they have genuine reasons for that, we can get through that. And one of the things that I'm advising to most people is, if your employer is not knowledgeable about how to go about that recruitment process themselves, find a professional. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be an immigration advisor. It can be a recruitment specialist. Find a recruitment specialist who's prepared to go through that. So, look, that's my advice coming out of this. I mean, I hope that's helpful. If any of you guys are finding yourselves in a mire and you really need to have some professional advice, get in touch with someone who knows what they're talking about. If you need to contact us, go ahead and contact us. Otherwise, good luck with your visas, everyone.